Alright, let's start this, bring in our reinforcements, so we can actually set up our army for real. Yeah, it looks like the enemy is content to chill up there. Eh, moving slightly. Whatever. I got two max size armies. They definitely don't have a chance if they don't consolidate, and even then, I'm gonna kick their butts. Because that's how we do things around here. Okay, massive troops. Let's group some cavalry. Everybody else is gonna get their own group. Not with the light cavalry, separate. Two, link you all up. No, you're two. But I want to separate some guys to hold in reserve. Bring the Galatian swordsman. Who else did I want? I wanted my Sobek cultists. Keep the Royal Guard there. Let's draw in these guys. We have a kind of secondary charging force. Same idea with the cavalry. They'll go in once there's a nice opening. I want to put you three.
We attack as one.
Three.
Egyptian infantry.
You two. Oh, yeah, Sobek cultists there. Oh, but I don't want the Royal Guard.
Orders.
I might be stuck with it. Whatever. Add you all in together. Oh, there. Can put them back in. I'm not used to having to not being able to highlight units, but I can't do that while I'm recording like this, so gotta get used to these controls. Also, I haven't played the game in a while in general, so we got that going for us. I should probably move faster because the enemy is kind of getting their shit together. They're gonna come at me, and I would like to not be in a total mess when that happens. Okay, enemy's pushing in on me. He's got elephants. That's nice. I think we're just gonna move at an oblique and go hit straight for the elephants. Because if we can break their general, that's gonna be nice. Alright, you all move forward a bit. Adjust your angles.
Run, curse you! Get running! Leaders, Turtle's logo!
Shift the
Run,
whole army to
curse
the
you!
right.
Warriors, move out!
And let's refuse our left. Yeah. That way we can get an engagement over on the right, hopefully push for his general, and then when his army swings around to engage my right, I can send in my reserves to go hit him on his right. Flanking maneuvers, lots of fun. Alright. Push in.
Get running!
I should have sent both cavalry over to the... Oh, no. You're not getting away.
Riders, advance!
You want to ride at my infantry? Bring it on. Alright. Main line. Hit the general. Crash on him. You guys push in this flank over here. Cavalry, as soon as you finish mopping up his wing. Come on, route already. Where you're routing, I need you to break. Lose your card. I can go swing around and hit the infantry. Or not the infantry, the archers. Whatever, do it. Yep, my light cavalry have his citizens engaged. We're losing, but they're light cavalry, so I don't really care if they die. They're doing a good job just keeping my flanks safe. Come on, get around. Go hit his archers. Don't let them drill our guys. That's a general and a bunch of war elephants dead. We like to see that. I keep pushing in, you guys. Main force, push in on them. Cavalry. I mean, this is one, but you know, why not just go swinging for the rear? Well, that was fun. Those decisive victories. Especially nice when you get to capture a city, like I just did. So, something I want to talk about, just kind of info dump. As long as we're playing Total War and talking about warfare, we can bring up some history. Gonna connect it to warfare because, you know, that's what we're playing and that's what I know. So, always a good place to start. Start with things you know. We'll release captives because I still kind of want peace with you. But what I was saying, what I want to talk about is kind of the effectiveness of chariots in warfare, because they were pretty prevalent in the kind of late second millennium BCE. and they really face a sharp decline uh, around around like the mid uh, first millennium BCE. I mean, they're still in usage after that. Well, at least for a little bit. Like Darius uses them against Alexander, but that's more of the exception than the rule by that point. They've kind of died off around then. But really, like the 1300s to 900s BCE was the premier era of chariots.
My lord,
And they're also used very differently
I live
when
to serve.
it comes around to Alexander's time, rather than how they were used in the previous millennium.
What can I do
We need to
for
heal you guys. Take Iconium inside. How big is this army? 17. Okay, yeah, we're gonna stay at Tarsus so you guys can reinforce each other. Seems like a good plan. Not dying. Always nice. We're gonna drop you. This is not gonna be a military province. I'm gonna keep that one building just so we got some ability to recruit guys. I have so much money. You know, someday I will decide to spend it, but see, I'm an economy person. I like to build up my economy into a snowballing, unstoppable juggernaut. And given that our income is almost at 9,000 and our treasury is at 45,000,
I live to
I
serve
think
well.
I think we're making some good progress there. I think we might be set for at least a little bit. Dramon, one of my
Ready for battle.
generals. Queue up. Yes. No, we're done, right? Yeah, I didn't have anything else there. Yeah, so, chariots. They're they're really limited as far as how much they can be used because they're expensive to make. You know, it's basically a wagon strapped up to a horse, and they're often, if not armored, then at least elaborately decorated, especially the ones we're going to focus on back in their prime, um, at least prime usage. They were very elaborately decorated because they were made for nobles, and you know, the nobles had to pimp out
My
their rides
unflinching
so
master,
that everybody
prepare
knew
your cities, your
how
towns, your
swag they
villages,
were,
your dung heaps, and
that they were the richest, baddest, most important dudes around. No,
my
I'm not gonna
honorable
pay you for
master.
military alliance or defensive alliance, whatever. They just show off their wealth. But not only are they really expensive, they're hard to use, like in terms of on the battlefield, because they're really hard to steer. Uh, I mean, that's why you'll see things like crashing chariots. First of all, mobility is bad. You're basically charging, and then you have to make a long loop around. You cannot corner well, not at all, and that's why crashing chariots was very very common because if you try to take a turn too hard, your car's gonna flip, you're gonna go flying. You might die, your horse might get injured. It's battle all around. And if that happens on a battlefield, well, now you are on the ground, not moving, probably not near too many allies because you're part of a vanguard. Um, and you probably have a broken limb because you just got flung out of a cart moving at 20, 25 miles an hour. So you're not gonna fare too well
Serve well.
against enemy troops.
Fear
You're
is a gift.
probably gonna die, which is why chariots weren't really used uh,
Success, my
for
lord.
direct attack. Like you're not gonna see people with swords running around with chariots. Now the people in the chariot, they're at least two guys. There's one driving it. At least this is how the Egyptians did it. There's one driving it and one like the noble who actually owns the chariot would be usually carrying a bow and would be shooting at people, which you can imagine is rather hard, shooting people from the back of a moving cart. Um, and then the other way they were kind of used back in their prime, uh, again, as opposed to direct, uh, like making direct contact with the enemy, is the way the Greeks would often use them was just as personal transport. So again, they pimped them out, got them all blinged up, and you can see this especially in the Iliad. They do it all the time, both the Trojans and the Greeks. They use the chariots just to ride up to wherever they're going. So like you'll see Achilles and Hector just riding chariots to get to places, and then they always dismount and fight on foot whenever they do their actual fighting. They don't fight from the chariot, but people like further to the east, like the Hittites and the Egyptians and the Assyrians, would use their chariots as light, mobile archer platforms. And I need to do some stuff for my economy. Gotta build some things. See what we got here. That province is fine. This one doesn't have anything I can make yet. You don't either. Let's go take Salama. Well, actually, let's see. Damn, he embarked his whole force. Okay. So I can go take Salami, because it's very lightly defended. But then there's these champions of Olympus who will take it back very, very quickly. Be easier if I knew what they were up to. We're gonna have Bast go back and reinforce Antioch. Oh, Rhodes. Rhodes took side. Okay. They might take Iconium too. So we're gonna not deal with that for now. Someday I might actually recruit another army, so I have something to spend all this gold on. But, we'll see. We'll see. Honestly, I should probably just go ahead and do that. Start recruiting another army. Alright, Alexandria. I need to build... Oh, actually... Nope, nobody has both. Okay. Yeah, Alexandria. What do we got? What are your stats? You're all identical. Okay. Nice. I mean, it's not really nice. I'd like it if somebody was actually more useful. See, look at this guy. This guy with his chariot. These are scythe chariots. These would be ridden through enemy lines with the scything blades attached to the wheels, to the axles, so that as the chariot was going, the blades would cut through anyone they ran across. And the idea would just be to, first of all, you always want to make your enemy just run, flee, because then they're way easier to take down when they're not concentrated and focused on fighting you. But you also would like to punch a hole in the enemy line so you can get in there and wreck them now that their formation has been disrupted. Let's pick up some Egyptian cavalry and some citizens. We don't need those. Okay, how good are these Sobek cultists? How do they compare to Galatian swordsmen? More melee attack, less damage, lower charge bonus, but I don't really care because they're infantry. Melee defense, 65, nice. Okay, yeah, let's go with these Sobek cultists. We're going to want some pikemen, but Nubians are really cheap. So we're going to take some of those. Pick up 2 more Sobek cultists. I'm going to want some slingers so I can rain hell on these guys. Just one more. think. And then let's go ahead and throw in 2 more slingers. And maybe... I don't really feel like I need pikemen, because that's kind of the job of the cavalry. Let's go ahead and throw in 2 more cavalry. Egyptian cavalry. Yeah, because we got the income and the treasury to afford that extra army. We are not concerned with money, and we got more than enough food. That 142. Yeah, like I said, I like to build up my economy, and I think I've done a pretty good job of that. I'm gonna hope this guy doesn't attack Edessa, but he's weak anyway, so, you know, probably fine. But anyway, yeah, Chariots, at least, again, back in the second millennium, around the end of it, um, that's when you see the charioteers being used just primarily by nobles as their sort of personal war vehicles, and they would really use them to fight each other. Like again, the Greek heroes would ride their chariots to a given battleground and then fight a duel on foot. Um, the Egyptians, when they're shooting from their chariots, they're not really they're not really shooting at like the enemy lines, the enemy concentrated forces, the actual army. They're usually archery duels between the various sides, between opposing nobles who are also riding chariots. Um, Sort of like a dignified way to fight with our elite against your elite. Um, it's sort of like they don't really care about peasants. Like all the glory is in killing an enemy noble. It's kind of like a video game with scoring systems based on kills. Um, and you get like 1 point for killing a peasant, but you get 50 or 100 for killing an enemy noble. So you can imagine who everyone is going to go for, because that's where you get not only do you get the glory from killing the enemy nobles, you get to take their stuff, like their armor, which is often inlaid with precious metals and gems. Their pimped out chariot, like we mentioned earlier, you get to keep that. So there's a lot of stuff to gain attacking from attacking and killing nobles.
Your orders, my lord.
Yeah, stuff is always a big motivator. We're probably not going to fight this battle in person. Oh, okay, yeah, no, that's a large... I forgot I made this fleet out of crap ships. We're just going to blockade you for
Set
now.
up a blockade.
And if you attack, well, we'll run like scared little babies. He took side back, but I think that means... No, that's the Terror of Phobos. I don't know where his actual big army went. That's a little discomforting. But as long as I can't see them, they're too far away to be an immediate concern. So that's nice. The other thing about chariots with the really poor mobility and the fact that they're running on these really primitive wheels and being driven around is there's only so many places that are good to fight, because you need some ground that's really flat and dry and smooth so that your wheels can actually make it around. And even non-chariot people want those same conditions, because you want a large flat place so you can deploy your army. Like if I have 20,000 guys, I need a lot of open land so I can actually set them up. It's like imagine you're the Persians. You're not happy fighting at Thermopylae because you can't bring your numbers to bear. You want a large flat spot. And so you see all these battles just kind of keep happening in the same places, because those are the places that are good battlefields and that people want to keep fighting on. Let's see if we can bring you over to here. There we go. I'm gonna end my turn. Yeah, I mean, so chariots were really just primarily used by the aristocracy, and the Egyptians originally had like heavier chariots, designed to be a little less fragile. But when they started facing the Hittites around the 12th century, 13th, 12th century, um, the Hittites were using lighter chariots, which were easily more maneuverable, and so they could make multiple passes every time. So again, imagine it's almost like an archery joust since they corner so poorly. They're basically going lines, and then they have to slowly turn. But the Hittite chariots could turn much faster. So while the Egyptian guy is still going and still trying to make his turn, the Hittite's already coming back and taking more shots. And so after that, that's when the Egyptians shift to the lighter forms of chariots because they need to be able to match the maneuverability of the Hittites. Where's this invasion force? I wasn't paying attention. That's garbage. What is it? You? Yeah, I think it's just the Griffin's Grace. Whatever. Don't care about them. We're taking Salamai. Yeah, I don't need to fight that. I don't really fight battles that I feel would just slow the game down. So unless it looks like particularly interesting or it's particularly important, then I don't tend to fight it in person. Because otherwise these games would take even longer than they already do. And given that I'm in it for the long haul, they already take a very long time. So we try to minimize that a little bit. Look at me, I'm trying to spend money, but I just have too much of it. I should really recruit another champion, because again, got the money for it. Could get a dignitary too, but I don't really need one right now, because I've just been using these guys for combat. Maybe if I could manage to not be at war, but hey, starting positions, you know? Gotta start off fighting the successor kingdoms, because everybody wants a piece of Alexander's empire. So we get 50 years of war under the Diadochi Eye. Great times.
I am your champion, my lord. I will teach them.
But yeah, just talking about chariots, they sort of fell out of use with the Greeks when the sea peoples, and again we call them that. It's a terribly vague and uninformative name, because we really do not know much about them, because history is derived from written records, and the sea peoples did not leave written records. They were nomadic raiders, so they didn't deal with that kind of thing. Anyway, they're called sea peoples because, as you can guess, they were raiders, were navally based in the Eastern Mediterranean, and they took to raiding Greece. And the Greeks found repeatedly that these peoples, kind of similar to what happened in Japan with the first, with the first Mongol invasion that actually landed, when the samurai lined up and prepared to exchange prepared to make the ritual exchange of names and insults too. But the Mongols just opened fire because they had no familiarity with that custom and no reason to follow it. Same thing with the Greeks riding chariots to the battlefield. I mean, the sea peoples weren't gonna duel them just because they rode there, and so the chariots were kind of useless. Um, didn't do anything. You see, so you see the Greeks constantly getting raided by the sea peoples, and they learn to rely less on duels and scattered infantry formations, and you start seeing, and this is starting to happen more across the whole region, the whole Eastern Mediterranean. You start to see more concentrated deployments of
The enemy
infantry
casts a shadow
and
over us all.
focuses on sticking together and not running, which is a huge blow to the effectiveness of chariots because now not only are you not really dueling people as much anymore, you can't engage with the main lines. You can't even scare them into fleeing because the enemy troops are increasingly resolved to stand because they know that they have a better chance when they're in a focused formation than if they break up and run. Because if they run, they're just going to get ridden down. Um, so you start seeing more solid formations of infantry. I mean, like for example, you get these situations that start happening in Egypt. I mean, you can just imagine, there's this guy riding this noble riding his chariot, going at the enemy forces, expecting the enemy to break and flee at any moment, because they don't want to get ridden down and killed. Um, but the enemy keeps standing there, spears ready, and the noble just assures his friends, they'll move, because chariots don't corner well, so he's like they've got to move, or he can't change direction, so he's going at them. Um, Again, they're just standing still, and he's still confident. They'll move, they'll get out of the way, they'll run, everything will be fine. And they don't run, and he has a split second to realize his error, but again, can't turn out of the way. So he crashes into them. Horse dies because it's going to get impaled by those spears or crippled from falling over so much. Cart will go flying, dumping the charioteer on the ground. Again, limbs probably broken. So yes, some of the soldiers who stood against him will have died because they'll have gotten run over by the horse, but some of them will have lived, and then it's really easy for those survivors to butcher the um, the noble on the charioteer because he's pretty helpless now. And so you can then imagine his friends going, "Yeah, yeah, that looks bad. That looks like that hurt. We're gonna not do that." And it's about how the end of chariots being used like that went, because people realized, yeah, I'm gonna die if I do that, and I don't want to, especially because when you're a noble, you got more stuff to lose. Yeah, they were not pro their own death. Um, a common feature you would see on chariots was that there would actually be a third guy, another guy equipped with like a sword or a spear to help protect the charioteer in case of, sometimes he was on the chariot, but more often he would be like a runner following behind the chariot. And that way, just in case the chariot crashed, this guy could move in and protect him so he doesn't just get killed while he's trying to get up off the ground and get his bearings. But against these solid formations of infantry, one or two guys didn't really do enough to actually keep the nobles alive, and so with facing increased death rates, the nobles decided, let's not do that. Their lives were more important than some extra money from stealing them from from their foes. And then especially when you start seeing heavily armored infantry, um, then that's really once they're armored, it's much harder to do anything to them from chariots because your scything blades aren't really going to cut through. Your arrows are going to have a much harder time finding their mark to break through that armor. And again, it's already incredibly difficult to hit someone with an arrow from a chariot. Like, just yeah, that's not an easy feat to shoot. And so you start seeing chariots disappearing from battlefields really, really rapidly. And by the 8th century BCE, they're pretty much gone. Like again, there's still some selective usage, um, but they're mostly out of fashion. Again, you'll see some used later on, mostly by the Assyrians and Persia. Again, for example, Darius using them against Alexander, but even that example, that did not go well. Not only was that an exception to the general rule of chariots falling out of favor, they really did not work. Most of them failed to inflict any sort of casualties. They kind of jammed up and got stuck in rivets. It was a bad show. And
My honorable master
I think that's mostly what I have to say about that. Might be forgetting something just because it's kind of hard to do a mind dump straight from your head, especially while you're playing a game. It's really hard to remember what you're doing and what you're talking about while you go, but I gave it a go. I'm gonna keep this series going. Yes, I will eventually get to things like Alexander and Julius Caesar. I know those are highlights that people tend to like to see. We'll kind of build up to those. Start with some of the biggest things because then it's kind of downhill. I'm very open to taking requests. Whatever you guys really want to see, that's what I'm willing to work on. So yeah, I mean, if you have anything specific you want me to talk about next, I can take a look at that. I'll take your suggestions under consideration.